Hello, One Talk. Welcome to the Unicorn Emprise Podcast, the podcast for 0 to 1 million plus Kina entrepreneurs in PNG who want to have financial clarity, business structure, and tax confidence. I'm your host, Vanessa Geita, a registered public accountant, CPA, and content creator in PNG. In this episode, we will find out if you are the kind of unicorn for this podcast. Now in business, a unicorn is a privately held startup company who reaches a valuation of $1 billion. Although we are open to this podcast really is for those of us in PNG who are earning between that 0 to 1 million plus Kina range. And that is, you've earned this over a 5 to 7 year period doing formal business. And of course, unicorns have special values, and those are that which we will cover in this episode as we get to know a little more about each other. You may or may not already know me from my social media content, my online courses, or as my consultation or accounting client in my accounting business, Hello Taxman. This is my first formal business, and it fits between the 0 to 1 million Kina revenue range. And I've been running my accounting business part-time from my home here in Port Moresby since August 2021. My actual full-time job is mama to my 2 young kids. I am also married, and before mama life, I had a decade-long career as a professional tax consultant and accountant in the Big Four accounting firm space here in PNG. In my employment era, the clientele in the Big Fours were obviously the biggest of the biggest businesses in PNG. So we're talking hundreds of thousands to millions of Kina's worth type of clients. That was around 7 years ago, at the time of this recording in June 2025. And during that time, during the 7 years, as I became a parent, I became self-employed, I began meeting more and more one-talks who are running their own formal businesses and earning between that 0 to 1 million Kina range. I've seen that they appear to have the same values that I aspire to live by as an entrepreneur myself who wants to operate this business and build it more into the future. In this debut episode, it is really timely to talk about values because I've literally been working on my brand strategy with Shok23 in his workshop sessions. It's really enabled me to actually put these values down in writing. And these values are the values of my current business setup, which is my holding company, Unicorn Emprise Limited, who holds 100% of the accounting business name, Hello Taxman. So there are two distinct sets of values between the two entities, and as I share them with you in the rest of this episode, I want you to see if you can relate and identify with them, to see if you are the kind of unicorn who is on an emprise. And the word emprise means a daring adventure, and the daring adventure we are on and we are talking about in this podcast is entrepreneurship. Are you ready? Here we go. First of all, we will go through the Hello Taxman values and beliefs and then end with the Unicorn Emprise ones. There are 4 core values of the Hello Taxman unicorn. They are business accountability, financial clarity, business structure, and financial confidence. They vibe off each other and obviously are tied into the core activity of the business, which is my accounting business. Let's dive deeper into each one of them. Business accountability. The best analogy that I can think of can't come off direct, but I think it is powerful. You know how our elected leaders, politicians, when we vote them into power, they start getting corrupt? They start using government funds to fund their own personal lives over the lives of the people, over serving the people that elected them in there. This is the same kind of corruption that happens in our own businesses when we end up using business money for personal gain over the business mission. This is a big problem because I've seen this in too many SMEs that I've come across over the years. You typically won't be doing accounting when this happens. Like our leaders, we're not being accountable to the mission, the goals of the business over our personal lives. Doesn't mean that we can't get the money that we make out of our business. It means that we use it more for us instead of for our customers, for our prospects, for our clients, for the business costs itself. When you do accounting, you can avoid a lot of this because you're being accountable to your budget, to what your business is supposed to serve, the mission, the goals of the business itself. So the Hello Taxman Unicorn is someone who wants to be accountable to the mission, the vision of their business. The second value is financial clarity, and it naturally comes from being an entrepreneur who is accountable, like practically in your business. In my case, means you are doing accounting in your business. When you do accounting, you will gain financial clarity in the way that you will understand how money is supposed to flow through your business. There's some awareness that when money comes into the business, it's supposed to flow through the business itself before it reaches you personally. So there is a space between what's the business costs and then what's your costs in your personal lives. When you draw a clear line between business and personal funds, you have financial clarity to where your business is going and then your own personal life, where you personally think you should be wealth-wise and where you actually are. Again, this comes through accounting. The third value is business structure. It naturally flows down through the top when you are accountable in your business, which includes, by the way, being accountable for taxes. You have financial clarity. You know where you really are financially in your business. And because you do, you begin to intentionally design a business to become profitable. It just goes over a lot of people's heads that I've met through the years that there is a function in your business called finance. And this is where your accounting sits, bookkeeping sits. And then you have your sales and marketing, you have your operations, and then you have your HR as well. You will have to manage yourself and a team most times to run your business. Yeah, there's structure. So the Hello Taxman Unicorn is looking at structure. Is looking at building systems. James Clear says it best. Systems help you to win on repeat. Something to that effect. And the final value of Hello Taxman is financial confidence. When you're accountable, when you have clarity, when you have business structure, you naturally will grow confidence in your business. Now, of course, it doesn't mean that you don't have any worries. It just means you're confident of the progress and where you're going because you've been accountable and you have clarity and business structure. Now, of course, in a perfect world, you'd want all of these. And I'm not saying that if you don't have it yet, you're not this unicorn. I'm saying if you aspire to gain financial clarity, if you aspire to be accountable, if you aspire to have business structure so that you can be financially confident wherever you are in the 0 to 1 million journey in your business, welcome. This is your podcast and I'm happy to have you on this journey with me. To sum up the Hello Taxman values, those 4 values and beliefs, is this motto: we hold ourselves accountable to our business mission so that we can gain financial clarity and confidence. Now let's talk about the Unicorn Emprise values and beliefs. In my setup, the Unicorn Emprise company is the visionary entrepreneur version of me because these values and beliefs really are personal. They represent my journey into entrepreneurship. Compared to Hello Taxman, that is the CFO version of us as entrepreneurs. You want to be on top of your numbers, or your finances, you want to be confident about them, all of that. So that's kind of like the overall roles in our podcast. There are 5 values and beliefs of the Unicorn Emprise brand. They are self-awareness, self-ownership, self-respect, self-belief, and self-leadership. These again vibe off of each other and really do represent my personal journey into entrepreneurship. When I left formal employment in the middle of 2018, I was pregnant. I was expecting to have my child. He came at the end of 2018. There was a 3-year gap before I actually started this business in August 2021. In between that gap, I actually had my second child, my daughter. It was unexpected because initially assumed that I would go back to employment after my son, my firstborn, went to school. But when the second child came, I realized that that's not going to happen as quickly as I wanted it. And so as my savings from employment was going down fast, I realized that I really needed to get back on my own 2 feet financially. That was a big motivating factor, like a lot of other people, to start my own business. But to start my own business, it came through transitioning into motherhood. Before becoming a mother, I had assumed that I'd have it all together, that it would be nothing. Like in my career, I had done pretty well for myself, and I thought, what is parenting? Like I had this under control. Unfortunately, it didn't turn out like that. I really became disappointed with myself on how I was reacting as a new mother in that newborn phase for both of my children. I didn't like the way I was behaving. I didn't like my mindset. I didn't like my energy back then. And so I began to consume a lot of content. It was really the podcasts that helped me to build this thing called self-awareness, to become the kind of parent that I wanted to be. And so this is why the first value is self-awareness. I mean, I've been at this like just 4 years so far at this time of recording, but I'm sure other entrepreneurs can tell you that it's not just a smooth road. It really challenges you to build self-awareness to the level that you can say, hey, I'm going to face my fears. I'm going to change so that I can be the best version for this business. Just like I wanted to change to become a better parent for my kids. If you can relate to that, hey, Unicorn. Now, the second value is self-ownership, and it comes naturally, of course, from self-awareness. As you become more self-aware, you also become this person who wants to start designing your life. Entrepreneurship really represents that. I meet a lot of people who tell me that they started their own business because they wanted that freedom. They wanted that time freedom, that earning freedom to design their own life. And that is part of having this value of self-ownership. Self-ownership is something you practice out of self-awareness, because in business, you'll be constantly facing problem after problem, just like in parenting, problem after problem, issue after issue. And you want to have this value of self-ownership to say that, hey, I got this. I take full responsibility for any of my decisions, my desires, and their outcomes. The third value is self-respect. Again, it naturally flows when you're self-aware, when you take self-ownership, you build self-respect. In business, it is so important to honor our time. It's more valuable than money. It's so important to hold boundaries and respect your own value so that you can stay true to the vision, the mission, the goals of your business venture. After that follows the value of self-belief. It goes without saying, but I do want to share that self-belief was something that I thought I had locked down in my life until I became a mother. My self-belief dipped because I couldn't parent the way I wanted to at the newborn stage for my babies. I questioned myself a lot during that transition into motherhood. As I began to build self-belief again, that was what empowered me to finally start this dream business, which I had like floating in my head, but I really didn't see it coming this fast. It was motherhood that gave me the confidence that, hey, you got this. If you could build self-belief and the confidence to start this new journey into becoming the kind of mother you want, hey, maybe it'll work in entrepreneurship. Who knew? And self-belief really for me, it means that I don't have to wait for permission from someone else to start putting out their content, to start telling people that I've got something of value for them and then draw in customers that align with me through my content. So if you are a unicorn who wants to do this, but you're kind of struggling with this self-belief thing, you'll get there. It is a process, but it is totally doable. And it's something that you gotta maintain throughout the journey because there are so many unknowns ahead of you. And then finally, self-leadership. When you believe in yourself, you naturally can now lead yourself. To become a business owner means you're going to be leading your customers, your clients, your business. You can't lead others until you can lead yourself. Of course, we're not going to turn overnight and become leaders. These are things we need to practice throughout our journey as unicorns. To sum up these 5 values and beliefs of the Unicorn Emprise brand, there is this motto I have here. We are the change we wish to see as an entrepreneur. It really represents what I'm trying to do in my own business. If I want to see the kind of content about taxes and accounting in the 0 to 1 million kina range, I'm going to go out and do that. I'm not going to sit back and say, hey, it should be like this. It should be like that. Or that person is not doing, or the government is not doing it like this and that. No, I'm going to go and do it. That's a unicorn to me. And if you're someone who you're like that, this is your safe place. If you aspire to be like that, this is your safe place to grow with me in this podcast. And these were the 9 values between the Hello Taxman and Unicorn Emprise brands that I hope you have come to relate to in one way or another. It doesn't matter if you don't currently practice them, as long as you aspire to become a unicorn who has self-awareness, self-ownership, self-respect, self-belief, and self-leadership, welcome to the podcast. As long as you are an entrepreneur who wants to have and live by the values of the Hello Taxman brand, which are business accountability, financial clarity, business structure, and financial confidence, welcome. This is your safe place in the Unicorn Emprise Podcast. Alright, one talk emtasol for this episode. I'm Vanessa Geita, and I hope you join me again next time on the Unicorn Emprise Podcast.